Good afternoon, everybody.
You are now unmuted.
Good afternoon.
You are now
Good
muted.
afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Okay. It seems the students joined the session. First of all, can you hear me? It seems my connection is okay. There's no problem.
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Hope things are going well. You're fine. Before we start our session, I wanna say something about the remaining sessions. How many sessions do we have up to the end of the semester? You know?
You are now unmuted.
2 more sessions. Very
You are
good.
now muted.
As what is common for, let's say, seminar courses, at the end of the semester, traditionally, all the students are supposed to have a presentation of their project, of their proposal. Traditionally, it is the common, let's say, practice in seminar courses. But the point here is that there are too many students in the class. Also, in this class, the students are not too many, but because when we consider all the students, all the international Iraqi students, there are too many students. Actually, it was not possible to arrange let's say, 2 or 3 sessions to have a presentation of all the students. Because of that, I thought that it would be appropriate if we have some, let's say, volunteers, those who are volunteer to present their final project, their proposal to the class. Of course, we'll have some times, I think, in the 2 sessions, in the 2 coming sessions that we have, we can have some volunteers, those who are eager to present their projects will be given time to present their project, to present their proposal to the class. Of course, they will be given some comments on the proposal, and they will have the opportunity to revise as a result of receiving comments and feedbacks. I want to ask you at the beginning of the session to see if there are any volunteers for the 2 remaining sessions. Yeah, Mona Khaled Ravi, volunteer.
Yes, good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Yeah, let me write your name.
Yes, of course.
Yes, for next session.
I'd like to be a volunteer. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you. For
Sorry,
next
Doctor.
session. Yeah,
Sorry, doctor. You mean
yes,
in our thesis? You mean a
yeah,
proposal?
yeah,
Okay.
proposal.
Yes, doctor.
Mhm. And of course, for those who are volunteers, there will be bonus. There will be extra mark for those who are volunteers and who are able to and who present their proposal very good and interactive. Yes, Mona
You are now
Khaled,
unmuted.
the first one. Yes, Haydar Jawad, are you the next one? Yes, Haydar.
Yes, doctor. I would like to be third.
You are now muted.
Okay,
Haydar,
doctor.
Haydar Abdul
Yes,
Hamze.
yes, doctor.
Haydar Abdul Hamze, very good. Okay, anybody else? Do we have any other volunteer? I think we can have three more. These Mona Khaled, Haydar Jawad, and Haydar Abdul Hamze for next session, and we can also have three other volunteers for the last session, actually. You would have about 2 more weeks to prepare your proposal, to revise it, to complete if there is or there are anything to be revised. You would have those who are going to be volunteer for last week will have enough time to. Yes, Zainab Fazil. Yes or no, Zainab? No? You raise your hand. Can you tell us? Oh, Zainab? I don't have your voice actually. It seems your microphone is on, but it seems there is a problem in your connection.
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Right now I do have your voice. Are you a volunteer?
Yes.
Zainab Fazil. Yeah, thank you. Do we have any other volunteer?
Yes, doctor. I'm
Ghufran.
Ghufran Hassan.
Ghufran Hassan,
Yes,
the
doctor.
next one. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Ghufran Hassan. And we can have another, just one. One more. Anybody? No? No? Next session, also those who are volunteers for the last session, next session they can announce. There is no problem.
You are now unmuted.
Okay. Let me tell you something about your
You are now
presentation.
muted.
Please, those who are volunteers can prepare a PowerPoint or any other kinds of files, Word or PDF file to have, let's say, an outline. Preparing PowerPoint or preparing files for presentation doesn't mean that you should bring all the let's say bulk of information into the file, into the PowerPoint file.
You are now unmuted.
Doctor, excuse me.
Yes.
Can you
yes,
write my
Ghufran.
sister Zainab Hassan? She has a problem with her mic.
Of course.
She wants to be a volunteer for one.
Zainab Hassan, Ghufran Hassan, and Zainab Fazil for the last session.
Yes, thank you, doctor.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Good
I was
afternoon,
talking about.
doctor.
Good afternoon, Salah.
Doctor, I have a problem with mic. I am the present.
Yeah. Are you volunteer?
Yes, I am here, doctor.
Are you volunteer for presentation, or you're saying that you are present in the class? Which one?
Sorry, doctor.
Yes, Attisam.
Yes, the net is disconnect, and I don't know what about you are talking about. Sorry, doctor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was talking about
Yeah.
for the 2 more sessions that we have. Let me the exact dates, because there are 2 more sessions up to the end of the semester. Next week, the next week, which will be the 26th of December, and last week of our class, which will be the 2nd of January, I asked you to what is usual, what is common in seminar courses is that students are supposed to present their proposal, have a presentation, have a, let's say, lecture of their project, of their proposal in the class. And I told, because there are so many people in the class, it was not possible to have a presentation of all the students. Because of that, I asked you to, some of you who are volunteers will be given time in the 2 sessions that we have to present their proposals in the class. They will be given about 10 minutes for presenting their proposal, and of course there will be time for comments and feedbacks. Of course, those who are presenting their proposal will be given bonus. There will be bonus extra time for them, and at the same time they will have the opportunity to receive comment and feedback, and as a result they can revise their proposal, and it can actually improve the quality of their projects. I was talking about that. 6 students, 6 of your classmates volunteered to have presentation. Mona Khaled, Haydar Jawad, and Haydar Abdul Hamza for next session, actually, which will be on 26th of December. Zainab Fazil, Ghofran Hassan, Zainab Hassan, volunteers for last session. We were talking about that, and I was asking them to prepare a file, a PowerPoint file, I don't know, Word file, or let's say PDF file. I was talking about a file because sometimes the students will bring bulk of information, paragraphs into the PowerPoint. It was not actually, let's say, okay and good way for presenting, because the audience will read the PowerPoint instead of listening to you. What is a better way is to have the outline of the material you're going to present. As a result of the outline, the audience will listen to you. So please try to follow this procedure in preparing your, let's say, presentation. Is there any comment?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. I will have in the last lecture, inshallah.
Oh, you are volunteer?
Yeah, in the last lecture.
Last session, okay.
Yes.
This is, okay, so we'll have 4 presentation for the last session and 3 for next. If there is any other volunteer for next session, we'll have another presentation for next session. Okay, no problem. Let me call your names. Salah Jabbar. Salah Jabbar. In the middle of my talk, you interrupted me and told that you are present, but right now you are not here, huh? Salah Jabbar.
No, Doctor.
You are now muted.
I cannot because I will back to Iraq.
Okay, are you with us, Salah Jabbar? Yeah, you're here. Okay, Salah Jabbar. Zainab Hassan. Yeah, Zainab Hassan, of course, is with us because it was a, yes, volunteer, Zainab Hassan. Ghofran Hassan.
Yes, Doctor, I'm present.
Yes, Ibtisam Hamoudi.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, Haydar Jawad is also present. Muhammad Saleh.
You are now
Mohammed
unmuted.
Saleh. No. Okay, I will check it. I will check it.
You are now muted.
Muhammad Ali Abdul Jalil.
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Haydar Abdul Hamza. Yes.
Yes,
he's
doctor.
with
Yes,
us.
doctor.
Yeah. Sumaya Abdul Sadeh. Sumaya Abdul Sadeh. Nurul Huda Ali. Nurul Huda Ali.
Yes, doctor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Zainab Fazil. Yes. Yeah. Muntazir Farhan.
He changed the
Muntazir
division.
Farhan. Too many sessions of being absent. Mona Khaled. Yes.
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Noor Mayed. Noor Mayed. Hand Nazir. And Nazir.
Yes, doctor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sajjad Kazem.
Yes, doctor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Yes, Noor Mayed. Are you with us? Sajjad
Yes,
Kazem, was Sajjad Kazem present here? Yeah, Sajjad Kazem. And Abbas Fatil. Abbas Fatil. Abbas Fatil.
Yes, doctor. I'm present.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Our today's discussion, I asked you to.
sorry, doctor. Good afternoon.
Good
I'm
afternoon,
present.
Mayed. Yeah, I heard your voice.
Thank you.
Welcome. Our today's discussion, I asked you to study the methodology section of the paper carefully, and I will talk about the methodology section because there are so many important points, that should be carefully examined and also would be useful in your writing. Before starting, is there any comment? Is there any question? Do you have anything to say before the start of the class with regard to your project, with regard to your proposal? Anything to ask? If there is any comment, any question that can help you your process, anything? No comment, no question, no problem with regard to your project, with regard to your proposal? No. Okay. Let's start about the article about scaffolded feedback, recasting them to development sociocultural perspective. If I'm not mistaken, last session we actually analyzed the abstract of the study. Let's say the introduction and also the literature review of the study. Am I right?
You are now unmuted.
The gap and the objectives. Oh, very good. Thank you. Under the heading of motivation,
You are now muted.
The first paragraph actually tells the gap, and the second paragraph, the last paragraph, talked about the objectives of the study. We talked about the abstract, the 4 moves of the abstract. We also talked about the introduction, and also the literature review. In the literature review section, there were 2 headings. The first one was recast. Talked about recast as a form of corrective feedback based on cognitive theory. And the second one was scaffolded feedback, which talked about scaffolding, the scaffolded feedback, and feedback based on the learner's ZPD as a kind of feedback within sociocultural theory. And we talked about the last part was, as one of you said, the gap and the motivation of the study on page 421. Okay, now let's move to the method or methodology of the study. The first title here is research questions. Is it common to have research questions in the method or methodology section? Oh. Yes, Zainab.
It is common to find the research question in the introduction.
Unfortunately, Zainab, your voice is not clear. Would you please try to fix the problem? There is a noise in your voice that actually makes problem and makes it difficult to understand. Would you please repeat yourself? Zainab?
Yes, doctor. Do you hear me?
Much better, yeah.
Yeah. It is usual to find the research question in the introduction.
Very good, yeah.
You are now unmuted.
Either in the introduction, at the end of the introduction, or at the end of the literature review.
You are now muted.
You're right, thank you. It is common to have research questions of the study in journal articles, let's say at the end of introduction, or sometimes at the end of the literature review. It is not that much common to have the research questions in the methodology section. But here, the guidelines, the rubrics of this journal actually ask the author to have research questions here in at the beginning of methodology. There are 2 research questions. What are the effects of scaffolded feedback and recast? The effects of scaffolded feedback and recast on the development of L2 knowledge. The second one, do learners benefit more from scaffolded feedback than recast in terms of their L2 development? Yeah, 2 research questions. The next title is design. What did you get from design of this article?
Yes, doctor.
Oh, no?
Yes, doctor. Yes,
Yeah.
the researcher in design, he said the study is an experimental study and in quantitative study. There are pre-test, treatment, and post-tests. Also, the learners are assigned and selected randomly to
Very
one of
good.
2 treatment groups, 1 control group, and we have 2 groups are experimental groups. Recasts also that involved no negotiation for their errors, while learners in the control group received no feedback for their errors.
Very good. Very good, Mona. Thank you. Yeah, the design of the study, as mentioned here, is experimental. or sometimes it may be called, let's say, true experimental, but and experimental as well. In some texts, some references, both are used. Here, experimental design, yeah, one of the requirements of experimental design is to have random selection of participants and also random assignment of participants into control and experimental groups. Yeah, very good. Talked about 2 treatment groups and 1 control group. Thank you very much, Mona. The next, is there any other comment with regard to the design of the study? If there is any comment?
Sorry, Doctor.
Yes, Abtisam.
Yes. Can we say about this, the first paragraph in the design, can we consider it?
From operationalization.
You are now muted.
Yes, Doctor.
Mona?
Yes, in operationalizations, the researcher's doctor tries to provide recasts and scaffolded feedback, which means that 2 strategies. He used 2 strategies. The first one is the recast, which means is one of the strategies that the teachers or the researchers use to review students' contribution to manifestate the answers of the students. Also, he used real examples. For example, he said, learner, what he thinking about? Teacher, repair the student's contribution. He said, what is he thinking about? I think in this case, the researcher focused on phonetically emphasized the correct part of the learner's utterances. He used rising intonation.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah. Haydar Jawad.
You are now unmuted.
You raise your hand. Go on. Yeah. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Haydar, and thank you, Mona, for your very good and comprehensive and informative information. Thank you. Yeah, it is clear that you studied the paper very carefully and in detail. Thank you. Yeah. Here, by operationalization, as you said, the researcher tries to provide a kind of operational definition of two main terms, two key terms of the study: recast and scaffold feedback. Explain it, that provided operational definition, and also examples. Examples will help the reader to find what happened in reality, how the researcher, when it is said that one experimental group received recast, when example is provided, the reader will be able to tangibly understand what actually happened in the recast group. The example is provided. Let's have a quick look at the example. Example 1 and example 2 are for recast. If one of you please read the examples. One of you please read the examples.
You are now unmuted.
Yes, Doctor.
You are now muted.
Yes, hey, that was the first one, if I'm not mistaken.
You are now unmuted.
The second one, please pay attention to the example and to the task to see what happened. The second one.
Yes.
The second one. Yes, Mona, Zainab, go on. Zainab Fazil, go on.
Yes. What's the man is doing? What is the man doing?
Okay, what happened in these two examples when the teacher provided recast to the learners? What kind of information was provided?
You are now
Yes,
unmuted.
Doctor.
Yes, Mona?
Doctor, he focused on phonetic, he used the rising intonation. The learner, what the man is doing. Teacher, what is the man doing?
And at the same time, something is corrected.
You are now
isn't
unmuted.
it? Not
Yes,
only
Doctor, yes, of course.
yes,
Grammatical
of
correction
course.
he used.
Yeah. The point is that what happens in recast is that the student's sentence will be repeated. As you can see, there is no change in the
You are
student.
now muted.
Just the grammatical structure will be corrected with no other change. As you can see, there is no other modification in the teacher's, let's say, correction. As you can see, what he thinking about, the student's sentence is repeated plus the correction. What is he thinking about? As you can see, no other modification is provided. And the second example, what is the man? Is added to the student's sentence. As you can see, the examples and actually explanations about recast made it clear to the reader what actually happened in the class. And it shows us as researchers and tells us that we should provide enough explanation about the procedure of our study in the methodology section, about the treatment, and on all other important information that are applied in our study. And also in the scaffolder feedback. What is mentioned in the scaffolder feedback? How about the second title in operationalization about scaffolder feedback? Of course, here in the scaffolder feedback, the author tries to explain the kind of feedback that is based on learners' ZPD,
You are now
zone
unmuted.
of proximal development, and a framework is given for providing feedback, which is based on a 6th level and based on the table 1, page 423, and also an example is also provided. Example 3, the help provided in the scaffolded group.
You are now muted.
As is mentioned
You are
here,
now unmuted.
is based on starts from the implicit and
You are now muted.
step by step moves to the explicit one. Am I right?
You are now unmuted.
Very good. Yeah.
You are now
Starts
muted.
from the most implicit, and if the learner was not able to correct, the teacher moves to the next level, step by step. If there was a need, the teacher will move to the next level of feedback. Okay. Any other important point related to this section, scaffolded feedback and operationalization? Do you have anything more? Any other important point to be mentioned here? No? Okay. We can move on to the next part, which is participants. So many important points are mentioned here with regard to the participants of the study. Okay. What important information is given here in the participant section?
You are now unmuted.
Yes, doctor.
Mona, then Heda.
You are now muted.
Yes, doctor. In participants, the researcher mentioned the gender, age, nationality of the students, I mean the participants. Also, he mentioned the learners were placed into these classes based on their performance on a simulated test and an interview. Also, he mentioned the size of the class. Also, he mentioned the ethical issues as we mentioned in the previous sessions, consent forms. Yes.
Very good.
Consent
Very good.
forms
Consent
and,
form. Yeah.
Yes, yes, doctor.
What happened in the consent form?
Yes, doctor. He asked 82 students to agree in participating in this study. I think he take an agreement from them.
Yeah.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah.
The learners also randomly assigned in 3 groups, 2 experimental groups and one control group. Also, he mentioned, doctor, the teachers who participated in this study. He said the MA degree teachers.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Haydar, if I'm not
You are
mistaken.
now unmuted.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We talked about it in one session about informing the students that they are going to be involved in a study. Yeah. So many information about the participants, they let's say background, their experience. Yeah, they were placed into these classes based on their performance on a TOEFL test and an interview about the, let's say, the size of the class, 3 classes were selected. And out of 90 students, 82 students completed the consent form. It means those who, there were some students who didn't agree, who didn't sign the consent form, and as a result they were discarded from the study. A very important ethical issue is mentioned here. Yeah, about the age range of the participants, the number of participants, all the information is presented. And as if I'm not mistaken, Mona said, it also talked about the teachers. Very important point. Something which is mostly in the majority of context missed. The teachers who taught the classes were also mentioned here as the participants. It was very, very important. The teacher's degree was mentioned. The number of teachers. How many teachers are involved in this study?
You are now unmuted.
Yes.
2 female teachers plus and also the researcher of the study was another teacher. Yeah, as it is mentioned here.
You are now muted.
Along with the author, means along with the researcher of this paper, along with the author, 2 experienced female EFL teachers, both with MA degrees in TEFL and a minimum of 4 years of language teaching, served as interlocutors during the treatment session. So there were 3. And as we go on, they were chosen for their knowledge and interest in corrective feedback research as established through interviews. All 3 interlocutors, there were 3 interlocutors, met several times prior to the study to discuss research objectives and procedures, and for 2 one-hour training sessions. There were also some training sessions for the teachers, very important. It seems these, let's say, this type of writing can be used for your project. When you are writing your project, your proposal, and also your thesis, you can use this form and providing appropriate information regarding the participants of your study, both students and teachers. Any comment, any questions so far? Any comment, any questions so far? The point is that we have about 3 or 4 students are participating in the class discussions, and they are almost in all sessions they are ready. Thank you for your presentation, for your participation in our session. I really ask other students to also participate in our discussions and interactions. I really appreciate it. If there is any comment, any question, of course you can ask. The next part is called the target structure. What is mentioned in the target structure? Another important point that shouldn't be missed. What is mentioned here in the target structure?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Mona.
Yes, Doctor. In target structure, the researcher mentioned he used the WH question forms. And the reason behind that, he said the choice of target was made after consulting with several AF teachers in the institute that hosted the study, who had identified WH question forms as problematic for their intermediate learners. WH questions form are relatively easy to enlist in meaning-focused tasks.
Very good. Yeah. what, let's say here, grammatical structure was selected, and also the reason for choosing that target structure. The point here is that some may ask you, you may, for example, choose, I don't know, let's say passive structure. As an example, I'm giving you an example to say, to discuss something. For example, you chose passive as the target structure of your study. I, as the referee, may ask you, why did you choose passive? What was the reason? Why didn't you choose, for example, conditional? Why didn't you use past tense? Why didn't you use, I don't know, future progressive? Huh? There are so many other grammatical structures, and you selected just one. Some may say, for example, I wanna work on, let's say, comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives. There should be a reason to justify for your selection of that target. So what happens here in the target structure is that the researcher is trying to provide justification. The researcher is I'm sorry. The researcher is providing justification for the selection of this target structure. Yeah, that's very important, specifically for those who are going to investigate something, some grammatical structures, some specific points. Of course, try to justify, provide reason. The reasons can come from your own experience. It can be, let's say, backed up by or supported by the literature as well. Okay, any other important point with regard to target structure? Any other important point? Okay, let me see. Yeah. Okay. The next title is called Corrective Feedback Treatment Instruments and Procedure. Okay. What is mentioned in the next part? The task of the study. Can you hear me? Seems
You
my
are now
connection is
unmuted.
okay. Yeah.
You are now
My
muted.
connection is okay, but out of my surprise, as we move on, the number of students in the class decrease. At the opening, there were about 15 or 16 students. Right now, they are 12. It seems it can be a good strategy to have, let's say, to call the students 2 times, both at the beginning and, let's say, in the middle or the end of the session. It seems some of the students leave us, unfortunately, in the middle of the class after I called their names. Okay, thank you. Thank you, really thank you for those who are with us and those who participate and cooperate in class discussions. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next part, talks about the task. The important point here is that a task was used in the class, and in using the task, actually the participants, the students, were supposed to produce something, to produce WH forms. What kind of task was used here?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, Zainab.
spot the differences task.
Very good.
Yeah, it consists of two sets of three picture cards. The teacher asked to show the differences between the picture. Yeah.
Very good.
Each learner was provided with one set of picture, while an interlocutor teacher holding the other set and invite the learner to ask a question in order to find at least 10 differences between the pictures.
Yeah, while asking the questions, the students produce WH forms. Yeah, thank you. Ibtisam Hamoudi, I think you,
Yes, it
go on.
is considered treatment task because when the teacher asks the students question in as Zainab said in three pictures, then to try to show give the students blessed feedback to correct the question.
Yeah, thank you. And also example is provided. Example with regard to the type of task, which is mentioned here. Example is given. I don't want to go to the example. And also, while doing the task and while the students were supposed to carry out the task, the teacher's interruption, the teacher's treatment while providing feedback is also provided here in the example. Yeah, very clearly, as you can see, all the steps, all the stages of the study is very, very informative and, let's say, transparent and clearly the researcher provided all the steps and stages in collecting the data. The first advantage of this type of writing, of providing all types of information, is that it can it makes it let's say easy for future researchers to repeat or, let's say, replicate this study in another context with some other variables, some other participants. Actually, replication as a kind of research would be easier. Yeah. And also for future researchers who wanna let's say carry out studies in this field can also use from the type of information presented here very clearly and specifically. Any other comment with regard to the type of task? Okay. What is next? What is the next title?
Yes, Doctor. Testing instruments and procedures. In this, yes, Doctor.
Again, there was a problem in the again.
Sorry, Doctor. Testing instruments and procedures.
Very good. The instruments.
Yes.
And
yes, Doctor. He used two tests. The first type is in-timed grammatically judgment test and oral product task.
Very good. Yeah. Let's say grammaticality judgment test. Yeah. A common, let's say, type of test or studies that are concerned with measuring students' grammatical development as a common practice, common form of test, grammaticality judgment test, or let's say GJT, grammaticality judgment test. What happens here in this type of test? Here, on-time grammaticality judgment means there is no time limit, as far as I know. What happens? Yes, Haydar, what happens in grammaticality judgment tests? Please wait. Please wait, Haydar. Before going to oral production test, I want to talk about grammaticality judgment test. Here, some sentences will be given to the students. The complete information is provided here. But the important point is that students are supposed to find whether the statement is grammatical or ungrammatical. The original form or format of grammaticality judgment test was just this: ask the students whether the statement is grammatical or ungrammatical. Later on, and I think here also a kind of modified version of grammaticality judgment test was used, because in the original form it was not clear whether the students was able to find the ungrammatical structure or not. Sometimes they were chosen the ungrammatical sentence, let's say, on chance and guessing sometimes. Because of that, they try to modify it and ask some, after selecting the ungrammatical statement, ask the students to also find the ungrammatical structure as well. This is actually, at the same time, some statements are within the test that are not ungrammatical. Those are called distractors. A kind of grammatical, if you search grammaticality judgment test, you'll find lots of other examples. And of course, in each study, based on the target structure of the study, different types of grammaticality judgment tests can be used. And it is common for those study who are within the grammatical structure, trying to measure the grammatical development of the students. Grammaticality judgment test is common. It's a common practice, of course. Okay, any comment with regard to grammaticality judgment test?
And the second test, the second oral productive test, OPT, this used to measure learners' productive knowledge for target forms as a result of treatment session. To measure how the students benefit from the treatment from the teacher.
Yeah, of course. And the second oral production test, or OPT, to measure learners' production of the target forms, actually production of WH forms while doing the spot the difference task. Learners were supposed to produce the target structure, which was the WH questions, and the teacher used oral production tests to check learners, let's say, development, as mentioned in the research questions. Yeah, development of their output. Okay. Yes.
In this section, the writer or the researcher mentioned also the time about the test. He mentioned that the latest about 30 minutes of each test.
Yeah, very good, of course, about the timing of the test.
Yes, the timing of the test.
Yeah,
yes.
How much time would be given. And of course, a question that can be asked in regard to the timing of these types of tests. So some may ask, how can we determine the exact time of the test that should be given to the participants?
You are now unmuted.
What can I say with regard to this?
You are now muted.
Is that there are two options.
You are now
One
unmuted.
is to pilot test. Yes, Haydar, go on. Haydar, go on. Yeah, both. Yeah, both types of tests, both on grammaticality judgment tests and oral production.
You are
tests
now
were
muted.
Exposed as pre-test and post-test. I was talking about the timing of the test and how to
Yes, yes,
determine.
Yes, the students or the researcher who determine the time. So when he tried for pre-test and how much time the test takes, so he can't determine the time of the test. And
how the researcher can determine? Is it some determine or determine?
Determine.
We are talking about corrective feedback, huh?
Yeah.
I'm providing corrective feedback. As far as I know, it is determine. It is not determine.
Yeah, sorry, determine.
Can you check the pronunciation of this word? Determine, examine. Do we have determine as well? Can you check?
No. Yes.
Sam is checking. Waiting for your response.
Yes, the word determine. Yeah, I check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Determine. Both in American English and British English, it is determine. We do not have determine. We do not have examine. It is determine. It is examine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if some for. Because you're a very active student and you do your best. I thought that it would be better to correct this.
Yes, but I happy that I received feedback from you. Yeah, I am happy about that. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, go on. You were talking about the timing of. Any comment about the timing? Let me ask my question again. Imagine you are going to use a task, something to measure a student's performance, to measure the student's development. How would you determine the time or how much time that would be given to the students? There are two ways to determine the exact time that should be given to the students. One is to pilot the test, with similar participants in a similar context. And after piloting the test, you would know how much time is needed to complete the task or to answer the items of the question. There would be an estimate of the time should be given to the participants. Not much time or less, the estimate or approximate. There is also another option, another way to determine the time. The next option is to check the literature. Some similar studies may use the same instruments with the same structure, and if the same instrument was used, the similar participants, you can find how much time was given to the similar participants. As a result, you will have a general picture of how much time should be given to the participants in doing the task or answering the items of the test. These two options for determining the time that should be given to the participants. Okay, any comments so far? Any comment?
You are
any
now
question
unmuted.
so far? And if there is any comment, any question regarding your project, yes, Haydar. Yes, Haydar. Mhm. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very good question was asked.
You are now muted.
Because what is presented here is a complete study. Something was carried out, data was collected, was analyzed. But what you are presenting next session is a proposal. And you are proposing something. And when talking about a proposal, imagine you are talking about statement of the problem, briefly, purpose of the study, research questions, and methodology. Talking about these, I think 10 minutes, about 10 minutes is enough. If you need more time will be given. But I think 10 minutes, if you want to be to the point and tell the exact points, 10 minutes is enough. Because you are not presenting the results of your study, because no data was collected. You're just talking about your introduction, purpose, research questions, and also methodology, talking very briefly, telling the audience the instruments of your study, the participants, and the procedure. Do you think, hey, that 10 minutes is not enough?
You are now unmuted.
What, Haydar, what happens in proposal? You are proposing something that will be carried out in near future, isn't it? Yeah, it is proposal. You're proposing something based on your study, based on your review of the related
You are now
literature,
muted.
and based on what you are able to do. You can collect the data. You are proposing something that will be accomplished, will be carried out in near future. Yeah, that's you're not talking about something that will be carried out, of course. Do you think 10 minutes is not enough?
You are now unmuted.
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is enough. If you need more time, of course, you will be given more times. Don't worry about that. But I think if you focus, of course, on the important issues, I think 10 minutes is enough. And of course, you'll receive comments and feedbacks from your classmates. And also, if there is any comment or feedback from me, I will provide you with feedback. Okay, any other comments? Any other?
You are now
Hey,
muted.
that anything
You
more?
are now unmuted.
Welcome.
You are now
Okay.
muted.
Any other comment? Any other question do we have? Okay, I think this paper actually provided very informative and insightful example of how the important information should be provided in a research study. Very comprehensive, I think, in helping students to frame and to draft their proposal, and also writing their research study. One important section, I think so far we talked about all the important sections, all the sections of the proposal so far. We talked about introduction, statement of the problem, purpose of the study, significance of the study, definition of the key terms, I don't know, operational definition, theoretical definition. We also talked about review of the related literature, how the review section can be drafted, can be written, different ways of organizing the literature review. We also talked about the methodology section, the different parts, different sections of the methodology section was also presented. Of course, chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3 of the thesis was also covered. We talked about so many important issues. One part, to me, one part which needs clarification, needs explanation, is the discussion section. A part which is written, discussion is written on which chapter? Chapter 4, chapter 5. Discussion is written on chapter 4, chapter 5.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Mona.
Yes, as I have read, Doctor, some theses and articles about my topic, I noticed in some theses discussion on the results in chapter 4, but in other chapter 5.
Yeah, you are completely right. Yeah, there are two versions. In some cases, discussion is written in chapter 4, and chapter 4 is entitled as results and discussion. Some cases, results and discussion for chapter 4. And chapter 5 is called conclusion and implication. In another version, in some other cases, chapter 4 is called results, and chapter 5 is called, let's say, discussion and conclusion. No difference. There is no difference between whether you write discussion in chapter 4, chapter 5. I think the point here is that in some instances where the results section in chapter 4 is so bulky and lots of information is presented in chapter 4 for results, the discussion will be moved to chapter 5. And if the results section is not that much bulky, the discussion can be written at the end of chapter 4. That makes no difference. The important point here is how to write the discussion section and what kind of information should be presented in the discussion. A common error that happens in the discussion section is that most students do not know how to write the discussion section. And what happens in reality is that most of the students reword, or let's say rephrase, the results in the discussion, and actually they do not discuss the findings of their study. Discussion means you should provide reason for your findings. Why this results came out of this research. That's the important point of discussion. Provide reason and justification for the results of your study, not just repeating the same results. I will talk about the discussion section in the next session, as we will have 3 presenters. Of course, we'll have time to talk about discussion. At the beginning of our next session, I will talk about those important moves in the discussion section, because it is very, very important to know how to write the discussion section, of course. And then we'll have your presentations. Yeah, discussion is a very important section, which is commonly, in the majority of the cases, written inappropriately. And what we'll see in the discussion section is a repetition of the result, which is not correct. I will talk about, let's say, those 3 or 4 important moves or types of information that should be given in the discussion section. I will talk about it. If I forgot, because today I think there is no enough time to talk about it. I will talk about it at the beginning of our next session. Please remind me. If I forgot, please remind me to talk about the discussion and those important moves in the discussion. I will give you some important information with regard to the discussion. Okay, any comment, any point? Any comment, any point? Any question?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
Talking about participants. At the beginning of the section, he mentioned here they choose randomly, and at the end of the paragraph, he said that they were chosen for their knowledge and interest in corrective feedback. Yes.
Yes.
They choose randomly, or yes, choose for their knowledge and.
It seems it is better to say that from among those students who were eager, or those who let's say I'm trying to find your exact sentence. What did you say? Could you please repeat yourself?
Doctor. As you said, some students are eager to participate in the test. But here in this paragraph, he mentioned that the learners choose randomly. And at the end of the paragraph, they said that said that
chosen for their knowledge and interest.
They were chosen for their knowledge and interest in corrective feedback.
These are related to the teachers.
Yeah.
Not for parties, not for students. Students were chosen randomly at Tisam.
Students randomly.
Students were chosen randomly, but the teachers here at the end of the paragraph, it is talking about the teachers, about the two teachers along with their author. The teachers who participated in the study were chosen because of their knowledge and interest in corrective feedback. That's two different stories. Did you get a point?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, the participants were chosen randomly, but let's say teachers were chosen because of their interest and knowledge in corrective feedback. Yeah, very good question was asked. Any other question? Any other comment? Okay, thank you very much for your participation. Of course, next session we'll have 3 lectures, 3 presentations. Please try to prepare yourself for your presentation and listen to your presentation. And at the same time, I will talk about the discussion section. Okay, thank you very much. And if there is no question, no comment, we can call it a day. Again, thank you. Take care and see you next time.